Welcome to this video on strategies for writers and an example done so. So often we're asked, how do you write a book and how do you write a book successfully? Well, here are some ideas. When it comes to learning a craft, any craft, including writing, some most important things you can do are, well, first of all, practice the craft. And then once you've done that, practice some more. And then you should practice a little more. You're going to get a theme here, but there is some other things you could do, which is to watch and learn how others do it. So if you're practicing a craft and maybe you're just practicing the same bad habits over and over and you're not quite getting what you need to do, well, maybe watch and learn how others do it and incorporate those skills that you've observed into your own writing. And then guess what you do with that? Well, then you practice some more. Okay. So to help you with that, I'm going to break down one of the novels that I wrote and some of the approaches that I learned that I then incorporated in my own skills to create the book. And we're going to look at the book, The Mirror of the Soul. Again, this is a bit of a unique book in the regards that it was based off of a song by musician Chris de Burgh. He most famously is known for his song Lady in Red in America. I did get full legal permission to use the lyrics and actually spoke with Chris about the significance and different parts of the book, so there is no legal issues there. However, so I was inspired by this song, The Mirror of the Soul, and it knocked me off my feet, and I thought, what a great book that would be. And so that was the genesis of the idea, and I figured out, gosh, well, how am I going to do this? Well, first of all, I kind of had to figure out some specifics of what the book was going to be structured like. Well, I figured it was going to be magical realism because it does take place in a real place, which is the southern France, which we'll talk about in a second, in the year 1453, I believe. But there is a magical element to it, this diamond that falls from the sky, which is believed to have magical powers to the point where the monks and the abbot of the local Abbé Saint-Pierre decide that they want to use it for gain. Okay, so it was magical realism. First, I figured out the genre, and I figured out it was going to be third-person limited. That was the way I was going to approach it. Okay, so the story was not first-person, but it's third-person limited. I didn't want to use omniscient because I find the limited approach works to help me connect the characters better to the reader personally. Okay, the story is told from many different perspectives, many different. It's not really about one particular character. It's about the story. It is story-driven, the story was going to be. Therefore, for it to be really told effectively, it needed to be told from different perspectives. So I recognized it was going to be story-driven, and that the setting was going to be in southern France in 1453, because that's how the song was based. So that was already set up for me. And I will tell you, I've never been to southern France, and I certainly wasn't there during 1453. So how do you go about writing a book to a place you've never been in a time you don't know much about? Well, first of all, I had to figure out who the main character is going to be to help me do the story. Well, this is a nod. The main character is really the main protagonist is Christophe. It's a nod to Chris de Burgh. He is the main protagonist. His antagonist is going to be Abbot Ignace. Again, I don't know how to pronounce that in French. But he is the leader of the Abbé Saint-Pierre, and who decides to use the diamond for his own reading this. Another main character is Lucien, who is the son of Christophe, who is an integral part in how the whole story unfolds. Again, that was revealed to me in the song itself. And then I have a minor character of, I don't know how you pronounce it. I pronounce it Jehan. It's the French version of John that was used back during that time. He works for Abbot Ignace, but he acts as kind of the insight on Ignace's madness. And then you have Didier, who is a local merchant. Christophe works for Didier. Didier buys completely into what Ignace is selling, so you see the different perspectives. So those are the main characters that I wanted to do. So I knew I had these main characters that were going to help me tell the story, but I still needed to get some more things to do. So I tried to figure out, well, how was I going to approach this? So here's some of the tools that I used. I basically created a playlist of Chris de Burgh songs that I would use as inspiration. And I would listen to these songs all the time while I was writing this. And they kind of got me into, I want to say in Chris de Burgh's head, as it were, on how he approached storytelling, how he approached songwriting and stuff like that. And I'll listen to this often. I've heard from other folks, including students, that often they'll use playlists to help them get in the mood or the mind frame for a particular writing approach. I had to do research on the living conditions of southern France in 1453. I didn't spend a lot of time on this because it really wasn't about that, but I didn't want to do anything that was completely out of whack. Also, the political conditions of southern France in 1503, I got to do some research. Basically, it takes place after the 100 Years' War, so this is a land that's been ravaged by war, which is now just kind of emerging from that. So there are some elements of that, which leads to the whole dynamic of the story. And this is one of the cooler things I did. I used Google Maps to explore the area. I actually found some areas in southern France, and I used the Google Maps feature to actually go and quote unquote walk around using their street level view to see the different area, to feel kind of what it was like in that particular area. And to kind of get a sense. Now, again, this is going to be a little outdated as far as, the buildings that were there compared to now back then, but at least I get a sense of the landscape and such like that. And then what I did is I studied the lyric structure of Christa Burke's songs to help inspire the writing style of this particular book. He is an artist. He creates his own things. He creates his own music, and he writes his own lyrics, which means that he has a very particular way of approaching that. So I wanted to kind of emulate his writing style in the book, which just seemed so fitting. Okay, and the end result was then the end of the book of The Mirror of the Soul, which I'm happy to say that Chris was quite pleased with, and it did rather well. It is what it is as far as if you don't like magical realism and you don't like things from southern France in 1543 with religious overtones and stuff like that, then it's not a preachy book, but it definitely talks about religion. Then that's maybe not the book for you. Although the people who did enjoy it and the audience, the intended audience, it worked well. So, but this book would nearly not have been as successful or as good of a product had I not gone through those steps which I had mentioned earlier. So that's an example of a writing technique or a writing approach that could be taken when approaching a different sort of writing technique or a writing story to help the writer become immersed in the frame of mind to write things that would be great. All right, so there you go.